evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to AlphaX's ATL Team League. Today we are playing the Pro version, which means that there is no MMR difference between no MMR maximum cap for our players. So we have the best games that we can possibly have today. To give me 1 second here as I pop over to the stream, we are playing, I believe this is 10C. I don't know if I have outdated information, but we have the lobby set up here. We are in the pregame, and very shortly we should be getting underway with the games. I don't know if I have technical issues here, but no, we're starting. We're live. All right. Let's get into it. I'm excited. Let's have a good evening. Get some StarCraft 2 going. Glad that all of you could choose to tune in for this. We have a Protoss versus Protoss as the first matchup. Just one more second as we finish loading in, and it looks like our first players are going to be Light versus KRR. We'll do proper player introductions in a minute. It's been a hot minute since I've casted anything. Spawning in the bottom right for AlphaX, it is the Grandmaster's Protoss player Light, and spawning in the top left for Clan 10C, it is the Protoss player Kerr. So Port Alexander for Protoss versus Protoss is not really a noteworthy map. There are a lot of abusable features for other races, but as far as I can tell, this one is really clean, really straightforward. We can see both players building their pylons at their ramps. This is the standard for PvP. This allows you to keep your adepts out and just create a pylon wall. You forgot to go on 3-minute stream delay. That I did. Allow me to edit that. Oh, Baxter. Just 1 second, gentlemen. We need to keep the stream delay on, make sure that our players are not compromised in their competitive integrity. So the most interesting way to differentiate between Protoss openings is the gas timings. We can see that Light down here has prioritized keeping his mineral line saturated with 16 out of 16, 1 out of 3 on each, whereas we see that KRR has gone for the same. Sometimes you'll see Protoss players dip down to 15 out of 16 in order to maximize that gas timing. If you want to have the standard opening where you build a sentry and a stalker out of your first 2 gateways, and you start warp gate immediately, then you need to give up a little bit of mineral income to do that. So even though that's the standard for expanding, that's the standard for proceeding into a macro game, neither player's done that. And so that suggests that they are valuing the minerals over the gas, and that makes sense here because we're seeing a 2-stalker opening out of Light, and a Stalker Sentry opening out of KRR. Another way to speak about Protoss openings is to examine the Chrono Boost expenditure, and we can see that Light is banking up, he's at about 120 now, and KRR has spent that 79, so he's 1 Chrono Boost down, is one way to look at it. And that can really shape the way that these beginning games go. We have a Robo opening versus a Twilight. And usually the Robo is safer, right? It gives you the ability to make observers, to be ready for invisible units. It gives you the ability to you can make immortals if there's gateway aggression coming in. It's a little more solid. You can punch harder, but it's not sneaky like a Twilight Council. That gives you openings that you just don't have as a Robo. Like if you want to put on blink pressure, if you want to put on a charge lot timing. I feel that we've now seen, even though Light hasn't expanded yet, he's gone for this 6-stalker Warp Prism. I was speaking about macro games. Gentlemen, we do not have Light posturing for a macro game with the safe Robo. He's going for a 3-gate Warp Prism attack, which you can transition out of, but this should be viewed as a very aggressive opening. This is a 1-base timing attack, and KRR has done a very good job so far. Just setting that Hallucinated Phoenix out, he's going to hold his top ramp, he's got a shield battery creating, so he knows what kind of attack is coming, and he sees the gravity of it, and he's preparing for it, but we don't necessarily see an overreaction. Like, he's not throwing down crazy tech or anything. He just puts down another gate, Chrono boosts his blink, and so we're going to have a 1-base build against a 1-base build, and usually in these situations the defender has an advantage. Light is transitioning himself over into the main now. He's got some good attacks on that Cybernetics core, but with the probe pull and with the shield battery, the amount of damage that he can get here is not to be underestimated. He can shuffle down, very clean micro to get down here a lot. He's getting a lot of probes. This is a lot more damage than KRR had to take. He's blinking down, trying to snap off these reinforcements. Light using the Warp Prism to micro. It looks like KRR wants to expand, but he needs to hold this first. And Light actually took less damage during that attack than I thought he would. I thought that with the shield battery and probe pull, we now have lots of good micro going on. A recall there, Light realizes that he's a little too far forward. And with blink out, the longer those units were out on the map, the more at risk they were. Light has actually walled himself completely in to be safe from counterattacks while he was putting on that pressure, but the Warp Prism died during the recall, so Light's kind of a captive in his own base now, and KRR has the interesting choice to either expand or try to punish, to try to say, hey, you tried to come get me, it didn't work, I had a good hold, now I'm gonna come get you. And that looks like that's what his game plan is. I'm curious to see if he can micro out the Immortal, but it looks like that muscle is gonna be enough that KRR decides that's not the game plan. That's not how he wants to handle this. And so, 1 base against 1 base, micro against micro. He has to keep that Stalker forward on the high ground vision, but with this Immortal here, just the hardened shield, he tried to focus it down, was target firing it, but I think that if he had stayed there and tried to commit for that Immortal, he would have had to trade out so many Stalkers, he would have thrown his lead there. I say throw his lead, but after seeing that opening and how many probes died, we did see an economic advantage come out for Light. His mining was never disrupted in the way that KRR's was with the probe pull and with the 8 probes dying. We have Charge coming down, a robotics facility, both players staying on 1 base, and you can see that these minerals are starting to mine out. We only have a couple minutes left before these bases start to become inefficient, before they start to fall under that maximum optimal threshold. KRR, it's like a panther, just in the brush, looking for something. He's definitely ready to pounce, and it looks like Light is just gonna ferry his next attack down here and try to do a follow-up attack. I wouldn't be surprised if Light was assuming that KRR had expanded by now, because this feels like a soft contain, but the Warp Prism goes down. It cost him some sentries, but now unless Light destroys one of these warp gates, he's not going to have the ability to get out of his base with this Immortal and 2 Stalkers. He can't expand off of that. What's interesting to know is that Light, again, has gone for this muscle, right? These Immortals, these sentries. He's spending his gas on a warp gate and a robo, and that's the extent of his tech. Whereas if we look at the top side of the map, we can see that both Blink and Charge have been invested in. A Twilight Council a Templar Archives is complete. And so we're going to have Charge-Lot Archon against Stalker Immortal Sentry. Still no Nexus though. This is surreal. Usually people delay their expansions in PvP. That is strategically wise. That's just part of the metagame of Protoss versus Protoss. But to be at 8 minutes 30 with no expansions taken, that goes beyond that kind of typical understanding of the matchup. The warp gate's out. Light's moving across the map. It looks like they're going to meet somewhere around the middle. Nope. Like ships passing each other in the night. It looks like KRR is not interested in letting Light establish this high ground, that he wants to contest him as he tries to climb up this feature of the map. Light has seen that he has observer control, and so he's just using these hallucinations here to try to tank for his army, but KRR has an observer here. It's going to be a battle of micro here. We have a kind of tunnel going on with the warp prism. He's ferrying his units back. He's trying to mitigate the damage on them. We have a shield battery up that KRR can pull back to, but that is a massive army. That was a very good fight for Light. His warp prism micro preserved his units very well, and the positioning there just meant that the zealots couldn't get the full surround that they wanted. The hallucinations, even if they weren't targets, they acted as like body blockers. They were walls, and he's shoving up, looking for the kill. He's got a massive supply lead. He's got 51 army supply and 15. He's taking everything out. The shield batteries are out of energy, and there's the game. That's a clean 1-0 for Light to put AlphaX in the lead. We'll be right back with the next game while we get it loaded up. And we are into the next lobby here. We have our next players. I don't know if I'm seeing this right, but do we have a Grandmaster against a Diamond? We have 4,300 MMR against... Something's not right here. Something's gotta not be right here. We wouldn't do this, right? This isn't... I have every faith that one of them. I don't have. They sent me the link to the website that showed exactly who was playing who, but I'm pretty sure I closed it and I can't find it again. So what we're looking at here is a lobby full of Masters players, and I'm assuming that 10C will be putting forth one of their Masters, possibly Marindal. Let's examine him a little bit. Let's take a look. There we are. But we're just killing time while we wait to get into the next game. Hi. Perfect. Okay, here we are. Thank you, Baxter. So we have Iron Chain versus AlphaX. So we just saw KRR versus Light. That was an excellent game. Really surprised that Light was able to do so much damage with his all-in, well, with his opening, with the 1-base 3-gate robo against a 1-base blink opening. I would have assumed some sort of advantage for the blink opening there with the defender's advantage, but that wasn't how we saw it play out. Okay, it looks like everybody playing in this game will be a Grandmaster, and so we are just in a little bit of downtime between the game while we wait for Soul to join. It looks like we'll have a Terran versus Terran for the next game. I can see that he's just popped into there, so thank you for your patience. Thank you for being here, enjoying some StarCraft with us tonight. Watch these excellent players really flex their stuff, you know, give them a little spotlight and see who can come out, who's been practicing harder. As far as I can tell, we are prepared to begin the game, so we should be heading in shortly. Fingers crossed, yeah. Perhaps we have a little bit more downtime. With the blink opening and with the shield battery up. Okay, never mind. There's no time to fill. We have further things to get into. We have another game, a Terran versus Terran. Excellent matchup and an excellent map for it as well. I like the big open area. If you look at the map here, you can see that there is quite a large air distance here that really, if you want to take a third base, it makes some interesting games. I've seen a lot of really good Terran versus Terrans on Year 0, so I'm glad that we were lucky enough to see it happen on this map. This is really fortunate for everybody watching and everybody playing. There's a lot of strategic openings here. We'll talk about the map in a second. Spawning in the top left from Clan 10C, the Grandmaster, it is Soul, against his opponent in the top right. Also a Grandmaster, sending out 2 SCVs already. It is representing AlphaX, UZICARI. This is just about the earliest SCV you can send out. Let's not pretend, let's not lie. This SCV has intentions, yeah? You don't send this SCV out just to see what's going on, just to check out, say hi, right? This SCV is getting in position, a gas geyser's been built, he's moving forward. And when these minerals hit 150, clean timing, there's the barracks. Looks like a proxy Reaper. Now, this is interesting because usually, my understanding is that you see proxy Reapers on maps that have multiple entrances, where it's really hard to like lock those Reapers out, right? If you have a cliff for them to jump up here, or if you have like a nice long opening for the Reapers to like choose where they're coming in, and then it makes a large surface area that the defender has to defend. But we're seeing that on this map, if the Terran can cover this cliff and this ramp, then the Reaper doesn't have an opening. So we might see a factory follow-up. This might not be a Reaper opening. We're kidding, right? That he didn't see it. Oh my goodness, I thought that would have passed by. That's wild. Okay, we have a scout coming out from Soul here. He's gonna see what's going on. We don't have a ramp, and so as soon as this SCV enters, he'll see that it's a proxy, and then the timer is on. Then UZICARI has to get into his base and get the damage done before Soul can really like create his defenses and turtle up a little bit. Speaking of defenses, we already see a bunker going down. We have a factory coming out. UZICARI does have the faster factory, and it's very close to his enemy's base. Wow, time is of the essence here. If you can picture a clock that's counting down, Uzukati is racing that clock to get damage done, and Sol, if he can get his defenses up in time, if he can create that space for himself, will have an advantage because his buildings are already in his base. So, very interested to see how this goes. We have a gas advantage for Uzukati, and we have a mineral advantage for Sol. And so Uzukati needs to take that gas to create offensive units to even out that mineral disadvantage, most notably by killing workers. So Sol now knows the location of the proxy. If he holds this and pushes out, and these buildings haven't been lifted, then he at least knows where the units are coming from. We can see out of Uzukati, it's going to be a Hellion Viking opening. I'm really liking Sol's position here. He's creating buildings at this ramp to try to limit the area that the Reapers can jump up. He's just creating his things that he would be making anyways, right? These aren't great investments to build a supply depot and to build a starport that he needed anyways. But he's creating them at this ramp to try to cut off the Reaper jump up area. We have a siege tank and Vikings coming out. Okay, so this looks more like a contained build than an actual kill, right? We have a Cyclone grabbing a little map control here for Sol. But if Uzukati can use the Vikings to establish some high ground vision and get these siege tanks outranging Sol's defenses, then he can start to kind of wear him down. He can start to like work his way into the main. Widowmine drop coming out here for Sol. He's going to send that across the map to say, look, if you're proxied, if all of your army is right outside my gates, then you probably don't have anything to defend back home. And that can put a real lose-lose situation into Uzukati if this gets too much damage here. We see the muscle of this Terran army moving forward though. Gonna siege up down here. That depot is in range, and so Sol will need to defend that. We have the mine drop unloading here. Action on both sides of the map already. Workers pulled. Siege tanks firing away at this barracks here. Supply depot's already gone down. We have no mining going on for Uzukati. He was trying to trick out the Widowmine there to get it to fire on a single SCV, but that Widowmine is still ready to shoot. Unless we see Uzukati wanted a gradual siege. He wanted to slowly push up. He wanted to use control of the ground with the siege tanks and control of the air with the Vikings here. But he can't really push up against two siege tanks, and he's not mining either because of this map, or this drop across the map. He's lifted his command center. It looks like he's going to give up the main. We still have that Widowmine burrowed. Wow. Okay. There's a Liberator here to use. These Vikings control the air. Liberator can kind of keep this push forward. I was talking about the kind of procedural, kind of steady pressure forward that he had planned. And this Liberator is a definite part of that. It's going to let him upend these siege tanks here and claim the space that those tanks will hold him. A quick unsiege there, and he charges forward. Okay, this seems like a needlessly... I think that Sol, with his undisrupted economy, could have held this. He pulls every SCV off, though. Siege tanks falling. Vikings... Wow, that was violent. Alright, 19 SCVs down. We now have 5 against 12 workers here, but that drop's continuing to prevent Uzukati from mining here. He's landed his command center and transferred his workers, but now he's just trying to dance away from these SCVs. The siege continues here. Looks like the Liberator went down during that fight, and so now upending the siege tank is going to be much harder. The starport must have been destroyed. I don't see it for... Yes, the starport's down, and so these Vikings, it's 2 against 1, and this other Viking... Whatever, Uzukati's got control of the skies. We have a second siege tank coming out though, providing some advantage for Sol in defending this. Again, we have this drop just relentless, chasing this command center around, never letting Uzukati get his economy back online. If this stays alive, then Uzukati always has wheels available. He'll always have that little opening back into the game. But with this on fire, and there's nothing here to protect it and keep this drop away from it, that's very quickly going to go down. And unless he can really get into here and break this defensive posture, we'll have a mining opponent. We'll have a mining player against a non-mining player. The command center burns down. What Uzukati has left is what he has. He needs to end the game with what he has here, but there's 3 siege tanks to defend it against 1, and Vikings are good on the ground. They're not that good. I would much rather have a siege tank than a Viking. How many buildings do we have left? Just a few production facilities, a few add-ons, and some refineries. It's not that Seoul has the most wild, successful economy we've ever seen in a Terran versus Terran, but he has an economy, he has income, and so the longer this game goes, I was talking about that stopwatch earlier. Oh, here we go. The mine comes in, the drop, he pulls back, SCVs and Marines fighting, Uzukati, GG's out. Wow, wild game, excellent. Thank you to the players for putting that on for us, and that ties it up 1-1, 10C and AlpX. That was really fun. I enjoyed that kind of game. Okay, we have an error with the stream going on, and so I'm going to restart it really quick. We will be right back in 1 second. Don't go anywhere.